So apologies, the first time I flipped the goose on my channel is I just got back from the airport and it was like 1 a.m. and everyone was asleep, and so I was like, oh, but I had like 4 knives waiting for me. I was like, oh my god, I've been in California for all week. I really want to flip something new. Oh my god, I've only been flipping the edit light for a week, and now I'm going to do a much more in-depth video on the goose. The goose is designed by Arthur Goins, and I've seen some Bally Ballistic regrinds. I don't know if it's under Bally Ballistic as a company. I haven't found that out. I just know that it's designed by Arthur Goins, and so I'm just considering it by Arthur Goins. And it's called the Goose, as you can see, because the blade looks like a goose. Um, the Goose is a sandwich titanium knife. These are titanium spacers, but I have also seen zirconium spacers that are apparently much heavier and a lot more expensive. And I said, no thanks, because I like neutral and I don't really need heavy handle bias. Um, the Goose is a knife that is machined by JK and is priced around, I think, 800 new. But a lot of times I see the Goose is weird. I love it. It's weird. So a knife, it has a hard time moving in the secondhand market because it's very unusual. And a lot of times, the Goose, because of its distinct wide spine, this spine sticking so far out, a lot of times in the closed position, the knife, the spine of it pokes out through the sandwich. Now, it doesn't affect the performance, but a lot of people are like, that doesn't look or feel good in a sense. Like I can gently feel it through if I press my finger through, and it doesn't affect the performance. But I guess if you're paying $800 for a knife, you'd think that something as obvious as sticking it in the closed position would be like, that's a little. So it's designed by Goins. It's machined by JK. And these are also in here hidden Zen pins. And Kuski from Kuski Crafts has made hidden Zen pins for the Goose to prevent it from sticking out. I had an option of getting a Goose that just naturally had its stock pins and didn't stick out, but a lot of the geese that you see on the secondhand market have Kuski Craft hidden Zen pins specifically so that this nose doesn't stick out, or I guess the top of that goose head honk. Um, but what else is weird about this knife? Because if it's just that, that's a little bit nothing. The thing about the goose is that it fans really nicely. However, it has a very odd balance. It's neutral, at least in its stock configuration. It's neutral with maybe a little handle bias, but it's like close to neutral. But what's odd is that while it has a relatively decent amount of ass weight, because you have these titanium spacers and a bunch of material milled out in the sandwich, the spine is so distinct because it's like a kukri, but the kukri part, instead of it being near the tip, which there is, most of the weight is in the back of the spine. It sticks so far back out, and it's the thickest part. This is a quite thick spine, which is comfortable to chaplain against, mind you. Um, but the weight distribution is so odd because instead of the blade theoretically pulling down towards, forward, the blade wants to pull backwards. And so the momentum is just very odd. I talked about in the previous video about the OSP matrix, and while it does have an interesting design with the Tanto, there's more weight that's focused towards the front of the blade as it extends wider. And that's a cool, interesting thing. The spine is quite thick, and so even though the spine is thick and even though there is this weight part sticking out here in the front, it probably relatively balances out in the sense. Despite that, it's also just there's so much just more material in the pivots. But a standard knife The spine doesn't necessarily go so far out. It usually just goes straight up. And kukris sometimes sort of compensate, but they don't stick out forward too much because then you just have a hard to flip knife and it's just too wide. Um, so the goose is just odd because unlike other blade profiles, it doesn't balance out forward, it just pulls backwards. And kukris typically, in the traditional kukri sense, I don't necessarily know as much for balisongs, but kukris want to pull forward because the whole point is that they're a machete that's very blade heavy, so that you know use it just slices real fucking fast and heavy. So the goose has the effects of like a backwards kukri, in that the spine pulls downwards, and it's not a bad thing. It's just an odd thing, and I like it because there's nothing like the goose. It's unfortunately a bit expensive, even on the secondhand market, even significantly reduced price. You can sometimes find it for around 600. I think a fair price for this goose is 700, but it's not gonna move. I've seen geese sit on the market for quite a while, and I like this one too because it's got blackened titanium and a blackened blade, and there's also raw or satin look. Um, so it feels a little weird to helicopter fan because of the weight distribution. Like you can, it just doesn't feel natural. However, the simple snap fan, I guess, feels great. Feels really nice. Also, because of the nature of the blade, it does feel different to flip on the bite side versus the safe side. However, I tend to flip more on the safe side because, you know, I don't like getting cut. Um, however, it just feels a little bit more natural, like a standard balisong when you flip on the bite side, because then it feels like, oh, the blade is pulling downish. Well, like not down. It feels like it's pulling in the direction that you expect it to. Now, as for rollovers, again, because of the weight of the blade and the distribution of the blade, it isn't. It's not what you normally expect. Like, ideally, you want more weight. Like, if you love rollovers, you want more weight at the ends of the handles, aka handle bias, or just more ass weight, so that the momentum is carried clean over. However, because of the spine being so odd, it makes rollovers just feel different because the blade is giving you more momentum. Even though it's handle bias, at least it feels handle bias. Yeah, even though the blade is giving you, like, even though the handles have more weight, the blade distribution of the weight is more so than the ends of the handles. And so you find that the blade is kind of determining where your rollovers want to be instead of the ends of the handles, which is typically what you want because you want the ends of the handles to guide the momentum of the roll over. That said, it fans beautifully. It rolls over strangely, and I guess aerials are fine. I don't know. I would be hesitant to try and do, like, let's see, I can try and do a helix aerial. I'm probably going to hurt myself. I don't know. I'm not confident in my helix aerials. I'm not really certain I'll catch it in a way that I feel. Ah! So yeah, don't take my word on aerials, because my aerial game is just kind of eh. That said, Goose, weird and unique and funny looking, and fun. I do find, because just a general nitpick, I find the ends of the handles just a little bit kind of not like pointy. It's just coarse. I wish it was just a little smoother because of how the corners of the handles are just a little bit like, I have sensitive skin. And while it is nicely chamfered and it does have smooth grooves, sometimes just because of the weight, which is, by the way, 4.55. So, you know, a pretty normal amount of weight, albeit slightly high mid. Um, because of how these chamfers are, they're not particularly large. They're nice standard chamfer size. Hello, focus, please. Hello, focus, please. Anyways, the because the chamfers are just sort of like that, it can feel a little rough. Just snap fans, as well as, like, you know, I have the corner of the blade in my palm. So yeah, that's just like a small nitpick. In the end, though, the Goose is a very odd Balisong, and if you like it, you'll like it, and if you don't like it, good luck trying to sell it, because it's hard to sell. So that's all I really have to say. I know that at some point he was shopping around and trying to see if Machine Wise was going to machine it, or if JK was, and because he ended up going with JK for whatever reason, I don't know. It ended up costing more, which is why I had to be priced towards 800. And that's too bad, because I think for a weird and sort of experimental design of a Balisong, what is going on with my camera? I don't know if that's a video or anything. It would be nicer if it cost less, but it is a well-made knife. It is a very well-made knife. I can tune this a little bit more, actually. And I think that it deserves more people to try it, but a lot of times I find that people are cowards and only like things that are, like, safe and comfortable feeling, and they don't like experimental weird shit like the Goose, or I don't fucking know. But that's just my mini soapbox. If you like this video, check out the rest of my channel, subscribe. I do daily uploads. Like and comment, leave your thoughts. Do you have any strong opinions about the Goose? Maybe you really like it, maybe you fucking hate it, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on the Goose. And happy flipping. Oh, and check out the coffee in my description, because even though $3 and $5 might not seem like a lot of money, it helps and helps me keep this channel alive. And, you know, I do daily uploads, and I like to think that, you know, people want to hear what I have to say, and it's nice to know that through monetary means, because it just makes it just a little bit more worthwhile to keep doing. Because $10 a package, you know, trying to ship everything all the time, which I do quite often, it adds up. I probably spent a knife's worth of money at the post office. So anyways, that's all I have to say about the Goose. Take care and happy flipping.